Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Alisha Braché here at Cosmic Gateway, and I'm delighted to bring on my next guest. He's a very dear soul brother of mine. He's a team member, a teammate of mine. Probably wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for him. So thank you, Hamish. Welcome. Hamish Bart, thank you for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me on, Alicia.
This video feels like it's been not just a lifetime in the making.
Lifetimes in the making. It's been brewing for a while. It has been brewing.
And I was tuning into like the theme or like the title of this video, and I had like a couple of things pop in. So
Mm,
just to sort of preface for people of like what you're going to be watching,
mm,
um, truth serum,
mm.
ugly truths. Um, we're at the point where every every bit of truth needs to be shared and spoken about,
Yeah,
and how with tenderness and compassion,
yeah,
because we are literally at the end game right
yeah,
now.
yep.
And to get across the line, I felt like you and I had to sit down and have this conversation. And I think for me to actually talk my truth, I've held back on so much for so long on this channel.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we do because we don't want to be seen as total Looney Tunes,
Mm,
and we don't even know if we're correct or not, or if we're not making it up, but if it's been made up and handed to us. And so it's like, yeah, you sometimes you just struggle to go all in because you don't even know if you believe it yourself
yep. Yep.
quite often. Yeah,
Yep. So that this is like my final mic drop moment of like, I don't even care anymore. I'm just going to speak whatever wants to come through me. And I
yeah,
don't even care if it's right or wrong. It's like my higher self has a lot she wants to say. She's effing pissed half the
mm,
time. And I think I've had this in the back of my head that I wanted to make a video of we all got played.
mm, yeah.
And that includes, none of us are excluded from that. We all got played down here. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yep,
And right now, we need to all unstick ourselves from the game.
mm,
So, yeah,
yeah,
here we are. We're going to go to some pretty confronting truths and darkness and vulnerability, I think.
yeah. Well, that's where the power is. The power is in being vulnerable, even with yourself, rather than others. Like if others are paying attention or not, so be it. But it's really got very little to do with anyone else. It's about, can you be vulnerable enough with yourself to tell yourself the truth, or even go to where a potential truth,
Mm.
because that's where the power is. If you're willing to go there, if you feel like you're strong enough that you can go there and still walk out the other side, no matter whether the answer's flattering or not,
Mm.
to your behavior or your demeanor, then that's a place of strength and power.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're not willing to go there because you might not make it out the other side, if you get an answer you don't like, then yeah, that's something you're probably going to have to work on soon because we're losing choice points fast.
Yes.
They're getting forced on us, whether we want to look at it or not.
Mm. And the acceleration to like squeeze us through the eye of the needle
Mm,
is painful, uncomfortable, and there's like I love it, because I did a post and I actually did the post. And while I was writing it, because when I write posts, I don't even think it's like a stream of consciousness, and my fingers are going, and then all of a sudden I'm done, and then I get post it. And when I did it, I was like, I was channeling Hamish because he's what. And then I called you. I was like, oh, Hamish, I hope you don't mind. Like I wasn't trying to take your content. I think your higher
no,
self was like just having a bit of input.
yeah, No, 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 no. I'm all for open source. No, no copyrights with me at all.
But I just want to acknowledge that because obviously you talk about these blind spots and
Hmm.
we all have them. And
Yeah.
I think what came through, or a conclusion that you and I both came to in the last 24 hours, is that what we've all been anticipating and waiting
Hmm.
for a long time is actually being held up by us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah. 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 And it's like, you know, part of us has been waiting for it, and part of us has been, not passively waiting. We've been doing the work that needs to be done to bring it forward, to speed it up, to make it smoother. And we're definitely part of what's holding it up. Like, why hasn't it happened yet? Why isn't it? Well, even just to the simplest sense of, well, if no one gets left behind, if no spirit
Mm.
or soul being gets left behind, no real being,
Mm. Yeah.
then we need to pull a rescue mission on all aspects of all real beings that are stuck. Because obviously, if we're here pulling ourselves out of the coals, or
Mm.
then we've got bits of ourselves and our friends and our team members and our family that are stuck in here in this Chinese finger trap, whatever it is. And so we're
What is a
trying.
Chinese finger
Oh, like it's a toy. You put your fingers in, and then that goes further, and you can't pull back. You've
trap?
got, yeah.
I love your
Counter,
analogies. Half the time I'm like, can you just explain that one?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's counterintuitive. The only way you can get out of it is counterintuitive. It's like a puzzle box, and so if we're the ones holding it up, because that we like, how many times are you going to hear they don't have any creativity, they don't have any power, all they can do is work through us, then they can't hold it up. But we all know it's being held up. So if they can't, then what's going on is they're using us to hold
Correct.
it up. And so how would that be possible? Well, if you can't see there's any way that you're being used to hold this up, but it's being held up, well, you could blame everyone else around you. That would be a nice, easy thing to do. Get annoyed and tell everyone they need to pull their socks up and get on with it and do the work that I've been doing for 20 years and get on with it. Or it's a blind spot because you can't see it, but you know it's there. So it's like a sleep paralysis demon or something, that's in your room, and you know it's there. You know it looks like a wolf. It's not a wolf, but it feels like a wolf.
Mm.
And you can't move, and it's there trying to freak you out, but you can't see it. You just know. So it's like, if you know that this is being held up and you are one of the creators in here, and these parasites have no creativity and no power,
Mm-hmm.
particularly, then they're using you. And so the only way they could be using you without your knowledge is through a blind spot. So what are your blind spots? And it's as simple as that.
Well, I can come on here and openly have this conversation because wow, did I get played? Oh, and I knew I was getting played and I had no control
Yep. Yep.
because of my trauma, because of my blind spot.
Yep.
And it's always, oh, it's the heart. Oh, I mean, yeah, like, yeah, I'm still working through it myself. Like I've identified it, but the release is still in progress.
Mm. Yeah.
And that's my vulnerability right there because it's
Yeah.
not easy to get on a video when you.
No. No, no, no. And thousands of people are going to see that Alicia's been helping all these people with all their stuff, but she's still got her own blind spots. And that's a big vulnerability. But that means you're coming from a position of power, because you know that acknowledging that you have blind spots and that there's a potential that you have blind spots, I mean, that means you're willing to work on them.
Mm.
So that's powerful right there. Because someone who says, well, I'm I can't be got like that. I know all the tricks. I've checked all my blind spots. I don't have any. Well, that could be true, but are you sure? Like,
Mm-hmm.
have you double checked with someone else? Have you got someone else to go over your work and proofread it? Like,
How many times has it been proofread? Because
uh huh.
maybe two or three times isn't enough.
It is not enough. It isn't, and we all know that it's not enough. So, I mean, it's a blind spot for a reason. You can't see it, and it's always trauma, one way or another,
Yeah.
always.
And what I'm seeing through my own experience and through so many other people who've reached out to me, I wrote a post about how it's like what seems to be coming, and I clocked this about a year. I was on the trail about a year ago,
Mm.
but boy, oh boy, a lot can happen in a year.
Sure can. There's a lot of moments in a year.
And it was, I'll paint a bit of a picture here.
Mm.
We come in here, like, as we're incarnating. This is the vision I was shown. We're like this little orb of light, and we're like trying to come in, and we get tracked.
Mm.
They're like, oh, there's a bright one. Yep. So there's trauma for a lot of people in the womb
Mm.
under 3 months.
Yeah.
It's like they try and take us out before we can even come into this world.
Yeah.
And I'll paint a whole picture, but I want to come back to the fact that it's always us testing us. And we knew we were going to get tracked.
Yeah. Yeah. It's part of it. It's part of it.
It's all part of it.
Mm.
Personal. So I've seen this so many times in so many sessions. And I think the only reason I have access to see that is because I saw it from my own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
And so then you come into the womb, right? And while you're in the womb, while your mother's carrying you, a lot of them have a lot of gray interference, or like there's a lot of galactic meddling. I mean, jump in at any point, Hamish.
But even before then, the way the system's set up energetically, I mean, you're going to come into a vessel, and the vessel's going to be organically grown, whatever that word organic means, but the vessel's going to be grown, so carried inside another vessel, and the blueprint for the vessel is going to come 3/4 from the mother and 1/4 from the father. And at whatever stage that vessel's being grown, you're going to come in, and you might come in and go out and come in. Like people talk about that a lot. They
Yep.
only really come in right at the
Right
end,
at the end.
or they come in early on and they stay in. And there's lots of different tactics and
I've
techniques.
seen, what I've seen through my work with like new earth children, and that often the soul, because of the frequency, is trying to attune the mother.
Mm.
So they come in at point of conception, they dip out. And
Yeah.
like the whole time during the pregnancy, however long gestation that may be,
Yep. Yep.
they're trying to attune the mother. So every time they imprint their frequency in, their soul essence comes in, it creates a purge.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And it's a double-edged sword, because if you can imprint the mother, then the mother can imprint you. And the family can imprint you, whatever's going on at the time in the family. And the vessel that is a 3/4, 1/4 concoction of the mother and the father's, I mean, genetic material, whatever we mean by the word genetic, but you know what I mean, energetic blueprint. So it's a 3/4, 1/4 synergy of this energetic blueprint. That is going to impress itself on you as well, as much as you're going to impress yourself on it when you come in.
Mm-hmm.
So this coming in and dipping out is probably a bit like coming in to imprint things a bit and then going, whoa, it's getting a bit toasty in here, and back out you go again.
That's what I've seen with women who are trying to bring through new earth children. I've seen this in sessions, and a lot of these women have been waiting a very long time to be able to physically birth these children. And when I communicate to the soul of the child, I'm like, what's going on? And you know what they always say to me? I dip my toe in and it's too dense. Nope.
Yep.
I ain't coming in.
That makes perfect sense.
So they're constantly like dipping their toe and going, oh no.
You've got a contract to fulfill. It's like, oh no, you didn't. The fine print didn't say anything about that level of density. Like, come on now. and
And
that's before there's any, like, that is just baked into the system, right? That is before you get any sort of underhanded skullduggery and stuff at a galactic level, also at an elemental level, and then, levels above the galactic level as well. Just depends on how bright you are and whose attention you caught. And but I mean, the galactics are the movers and shakers, even for the levels above them in here. They're the bag carriers a lot of the time, the ones that do the work. And
and this was my cognitive dissonance when Hamish came to me. I was like, no, 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 no. I glitched out. How many times have I glitched out in a conversation?
a few, a few. To be fair, I wasn't going easy on you, so.
You were. But I appreciate you for doing that because I'm the type of person that no matter how painful it is, I just want the truth.
Yeah, yeah,
So sorry, continue.
yeah. No, it's. I mean, and we know we're in here, like we're in some sort of construct. So the truth is always a bit relative, um, from a lot of different points of view. Uh, but at the end of the day, like, everything we're talking about is in here. We're not talking about, the only bit that's coming from outside of here is, if you're actually coming in from outside as a spirit to jump in, or as a being to jump in, and for whatever reason see what you can do. I'm sure people get stuck in here and people have been trapped in here, and there's all of that. But still, in all, if you have been stuck or trapped in here for millennia or eons or however long, you still came in for a reason. Like, you probably just didn't come in, like I was saying to someone earlier today, probably didn't come in because you just went, oh, look at the pretty graphics over there. Let's go, and it's a bright, shiny light. Let's go and check that out. I see people writing that, and I'm like, you really? Like, I don't know about that. I think the trap's been a little bit more nuanced in that somehow. And I think the trap has been known about for a long time as well. But knowing about something, particularly how dense and tricky something's going to be, and actually being able to deal with it from the inside out, they're two different things. Mm-hmm. So the idea that you're going to jump in here and help to get the bits of you that have been caught in here last time, or your friends, or your whatever, your team members, and help them get out, because you can only do it from the inside out. The idea of it's one thing, but then get squeezed through the birth canal and come out and get landed in a hospital, or even a home birth, but spend a couple of years in a body like that, and then tell me you're still good to go, and you've got no programming on you, and no blind spots have been inserted, and like you said at the start,
the tech that it's put, like,
we've all been got. We've all been so badly got in here.
Yeah, like, totally played. Like, every day I have my own inner meltdown because I got played again, and I didn't see that one, and I thought that was for my highest good.
Yeah, see, I'm allergic to that. Whenever anyone says this is for your highest good, this is University Earth, I'm like, look, that could be true, but you can hide a lot of sins under that carpet. Like, we really need to pull the carpet up and have a look at that, because it could be for your highest good, and it could be all of that stuff. But man, that's a big loophole.
Can we just talk about the invert? Because I want to clarify, because I keep saying to you, but Hamish.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some sort of galactic. You came to me with particular galactic groups.
Yeah, so let's just say Arcturians, and throw them under the bus. Pleiadians are in there as well. Andromedans, not so much, but they, not all of them have got their hands clean. And we'll preface this by saying we absolutely understand they're all in here with us. They're not outside. They're not some ascended. We know there are soul and spirited beings in those groups, just like there are in our groups. And so if we're going to say, what is it, 5%, 10%, 1%, whatever your figure is, of how many people you believe are actually real in here, humans, not counting plant beings or animal beings or whatever, then it's likely it's the same for these other groups. Likely. Maybe not even that many. Who knows? But it's going to be the same kind of dynamic. So imagining, and like has been said a million times, imagining all reptilians are bad is like imagining all humans are good. Like, it's just not going to work that way. There are stereotypes and racial profiling, for want of a better term, but that doesn't always track true. But having said that, there is a lot of testimony out there from SSP people, so Secret Space Program people, which is very, very, very worthwhile listening to, because they are people who have gone and either been forced to or very deliberately, either way, unraveled bits of their programming, either a bit or a lot, depending on how far they've gone. And they will all, I mean, they'll all talk about the governments on Earth being beholden to aliens or, you know, extraterrestrials or whatever, like these different beings that are not human and don't really operate like humans at all. And they'll all talk about greys and reptilians being, for the most part, not that beneficial for humans at all. So we've got that. Even if they're neutral, there's not a lot of benefit going on there. It's very self-serving. But all of them talk about tall whites, Nordics, Pleiadians, Tagetans. They're all wrapped up in the military programs. And they all mostly talk about what is people describe as Arcturians being at the top of all of those programs. And so I've never yet seen a space program, a military galactic program that wasn't stealing children, implanting people with tech that's very self-serving, using slavery, like even the good ones, right? Solar Warden and all of those, the good guys, right? They're all playing by the same rules, and they've all got these beings at the top. So that might, and you can justify that any way you want about, well, this group of Pleiadians and that group of Tagetans and these group, like it's fine, like justify it any way you want, but you're not going to be able to tell when a tall white or an Arcturian or appears in front of you, comes to you in your dream space, comes to you in an astral travel. How are you going to know that they're this one that you've been communicating with for how long, or this one that's just popped up, isn't involved in these programs? Because it seems like quite a few of them are. And these programs are, let's just put it right out there, they're involved in child trafficking and slavery at a bare minimum.
Yeah, a bare minimum. Yeah.
So the amount of tech, the amount of and I'll just throw this in here as a sweetener, the amount of non-beneficial tech that I've pulled off people in sessions that has come from Arcturians is mind-boggling. And these are the healers, these are the teachers, the Pleiadians are up there, or, you know, whatever you want to call them, tall whites, Targetans. They're up there taking people on craft and teaching them and showing them and do. Yeah, they are, but they're also involved in using stolen tech or their own developed tech that they're putting on people that is not beneficial at all. In some cases, ruining people's lives for decades, some of this tech. So there's no one in this arena that's squeaky clean as far as I'm concerned. And that's a tough one to swallow for some people, because they've got their teams and they've got their crews, and they don't want to hear that. Or, well, the bad guys are playing by those rules, so we have to as well. And like, I heard all of those arguments in the last 3 or 4 years around the climate stuff or the injectable stuff and my line is unwavering around that. If you need to lie to people to do the right thing, it's not the right thing. The end will never justify the means, ever. Because as soon as you do the distorted thing to get to what you think is wonderful, you've ruined the wonderful thing with that distortion.
Mm-hmm.
it just doesn't work.
Mm.
Or if it has, I'd love to see it because I've not found it yet.
I want to add into that because obviously I've had a bit of affinity with Arcturians, and
Mm,
yeah, I got played, but there were aspects that were pure
yeah, totally.
and not corrupted
Yes, absolutely.
and not inverted. But I had to sift through all
It's a lot of sifting.
a lot of sifting,
A lot of sifting.
a lot of sifting.
Yep.
Um, and I believe that we here in this, whatever this is, I don't know,
Yeah.
we're actually undoing the way that I saw it through my own soul's journey of like dropping in and then fractal as we do our consciousness fractals, Arcturus,
Mm,
Lyra. You know,
yep. Yep.
we bounce around, we go everywhere, we do everything.
Mm,
And I saw that there was this momentary organic experience in Lyra in
mm,
Arcturus.
mm.
And then the virus came.
Yeah. Yep.
And it once it hit, it then corrupted and inverted. You know, in Arcturus, from what I saw, was the beginning of the divine counterpart template
Mm,
because the Arcturians and the Cinemastas are all over the
yep.
twin stuff.
Yep. Yep.
And I knew I couldn't put language around it. And so many like Debbie and like, you know,
Mm,
knew the twin community had been hijacked so hard,
yeah.
but not really understanding at the highest levels how, why, what, when, how, when, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
And
And
then, you know, you've got, you know, Lyra, like, right. And it came through. And then from that, like, we had this like beautiful moment over here, beautiful moment over there. And then, like, boom, this like black goo with like tech just seeped in. Like, that's the best description I can give.
yep.
And literally inverted everything. And we then went into the Orion Wars,
Mm,
and we've been flipping and fighting on each other
yep.
ever since.
Yep.
And here we are.
And if you want to know what an argument for, like what an inverted argument for doing the non-beneficial thing to get the beneficial outcome is, just look at Elon Musk talking about how scary AI is. I mean, we all know about Elon Musk, but it's a good example of him talking publicly about how scary AI is. And so we need to work out a neural interface between computers, computing power, and digital computing power and analog human consciousness, because that's the only way we'll get in front of it. And we need to go to Mars because, you know, we'll probably lose the Earth in the battle that will ensue when AI works out that we're trying to work out a digital interface so we can pull the plug from both ends on it before it gets too scary. Like, how many fingers and toes? Like, you would run out of fingers and toes in about 30 seconds counting all the things wrong with that battle plan. Like, it it's pretty obvious, but there are people who agree with that.
Can we not talk about Mars and spiders and
You know,
cybots and like, oh, you know, those who have arachnophobia like I do,
yeah,
there's real reasons to have,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, they weren't just riffing on empty air. They were.
I just want to come back to one point was the inversion, and it's just seeped through from the highest level, highest realms, planet, however you want, like however your storyline that has seeped through, seeped through.
Mm.
Anyway, you get the point.
Yeah,
To now, and now we're at like the layer upon the layer of the trauma of the trauma of the trauma of the inversion of
yeah,
like the, but us remembering who we truly are and
mm.
our infinite spark is literally through us we're unraveling
Yeah,
and we're reversing the inverted to its rightful
And there are a lot of stories, a lot of old stories, um, and stories that have come from old word of mouth stories, like so proper old stuff that's out there, which are most probably clues that we left for ourselves, and they've been messed with and mucked around, but you can still see like the pathways in there. And and when you kind of pass through and work out what's talking about what, the the storyline is kind of the same in all of them, and it revolves around, the human being, like the spirit in a human body, whatever that is, that combination is literally the antivirus. It's the peace treaty between the two warring factions. It's like this language gets used again and again. Why are the humans important? They're insignificant. They're this, they're that. There's all this other stuff, and then you realize that you've been all that other stuff as well, and you have memories of that, and you can put yourself in those positions, and you're like, what is it about? Even if these bodies and consciousnesses were fully switched on, like fully Superman style, right? Still and all, it's not looking like this package is what's going to unravel everything, particularly. But all of the stories that talk about that point to that being exactly what goes on here is that it's not the ascended masters that work it out. It's not the gods with a big G that work it out. It's not the gods with a small g that work it out. It's not any of the galactic races that work it out. It's the humans that work it out. Even the stories that say humans are a pure hybrid to start with, like they're just this created vessel. And I mean, yeah, a lot of people have got to take a lot of issue with that, but I mean, everything's kind of created in here, so you can't get too bent out of shape about that. Um, and we might have been the ones that created the vessel very specifically for a reason. So I mean, you've got
Like
to,
when you go to the highest levels, you're like, well,
yeah, who created it? Well, so
it
you
was
have a bit of a
me.
look
I
at
thought
that.
it was going to be fun.
Yeah. But then that gives you this point of view, and a lot of people have kind of come at this, gone, well, it's not going to be any of these other groups that work it out. They've got they've got too much overview. They've got too much power. It's the ones with all those abilities that are right down the bottom, supposedly, like seemingly the point of view is pulled right in.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that are going to be able to see this game for what it actually is and flip it, because we've got all the skin in the game and no reward coming out of it, whereas all these other beings, they're getting rewards. They've got it a lot better than we have,
Mm-hmm.
and I think there's a reason for that. In a
Mm-hmm.
funny way, I think this is the sort of pressure that you put yourself under so that you do snap back out of it,
Yep. And
because the ascended masters and all the other, like, they're not snapping out of it in a hurry. Not like they'll get to a point. It'll always get to a point, but then it always just remains in here.
I think that what comes to mind of what you're saying is literally us taking our power back.
Yeah, yeah.
And we've given our power away to
Everyone,
everyone. Like
anyone who
everyone.
asked for it, we gave them a loan.
You get my power and you get my power and everyone gets my power.
Yeah,
And the game ends when we go,
yeah. No more.
I call back all my power.
Mm-hmm. And just like doing, I forget the word, it's escaped me, but when you affirmations, just as you're doing affirmations and you're commanding and you're like, when the words, and we've had this, I've had this conversation in a few different places, and it just works beautifully everywhere. Like, when the words coming out of your mouth don't match the energy getting thrown off by your being, it's a mixed message, and reality, whatever that is going to go with the strongest, loudest message. And it's a very good chance that your blind spot is going to be louder and stronger than the words coming out of your mouth. So if you're saying, I declare all of my power comes back to me now, henceforth, and flowery words, and yummy. It's so yummy. Meanwhile, down here is going, every time I get my power back, it all goes wrong. It's not safe for me to have my power. Like, we know which one's probably going to win. So that's a blind spot that needs checking, because you don't even know it's happening. Because if you knew it was happening, you wouldn't even bother with the words. You'd be like, well, we need to fix what's going on here before we start making these very flowery and broad declarations. And how, like, the very good example of this, it was, I think it was in a twin flame conversation or a round table or something, and it was around men saying one thing and doing another. And we were picking on men in this particular point. I don't know why we just were. I think I might have picking on men, but
let's talk about this. I got to insert in terms of a download I got years ago, and now it only in the last 24 hours does it really make sense. And I said, when the masculine energy on this planet stands up and says no more, it's game over.
Yeah.
And that's the reason. So when I say masculine energy, that's everyone. We're not talking about bits and genders and
nope. Nope. It's very easy to point the finger and say well, the feminines are this and the feminines that. It's like, yeah, but what about the feminine in you? Like, I do hear a lot from females about the masculine, this and that, and toxic and wounding, and the flip side of that is, yeah, but you, like, 50% of what you've got is masculine. How's that going? And it was, we were talking about rape. It was quite raw, but what we were talking about was someone getting jumped by a bloke, and it can happen the other way around, of course. But we were just talking about a female getting jumped by a male and getting assaulted sexually. And even if it's in the marital bed, like this is in all situations. And the female is saying, no, no, stop. Like, with all of her being, she's saying no and stop. And there's a trauma wound in there that's been put in there that's not saying that at all. It's saying something else. And the reason I used that example was because I was pointing out to the group of mostly women that men are very, very driven either by their heads or by their guts, like that gut instinct. The heart is never usually as strong unless it's really been worked on and cultivated. And so when the head hears, like, the brain will hear one thing, but the heart will hear another thing, and the gut instinct will hear, like, it gets the animal stuff. It gets all the blind spots and the traumas and the guttural, visceral. And so if a man is operating mostly from gut instinct, he's not going to hear this. He's only going to hear what your physical body is kicking off, and your physical body will be kicking off what that trauma has instigated and is hiding. And, like, that is a massive blind spot, because you're like, I don't know, why do I keep attracting these men? Why? And it's like, you keep broadcasting to them. You keep saying, this is all I'm worth. But it's a blind spot. You don't even know the broadcast is going. You can't spot it. And it doesn't happen much the other way around, because women don't operate like that so much. Women aren't listening to what men's bodies are saying, what they're physically, they're listening to what their hearts are saying. They're listening to what their mouth is saying. And so women don't get wrong-footed like that the way men do. But men will get the wrong idea about a woman, like, so easily, because their mouth is saying one thing, but their body is throwing off a very, very counterproductive energy to that. And that, once again, that's implants, that's trauma, and it's all very deliberate and calculated.
It's tech in the SSP. Like, can we just talk about that? Because when I started to discover this tech that sits in the sacral, that distorts the sexual frequency, the life force energy, I wanted to vomit.
Yeah, it's not.
And it was tech plugged into the moon base.
Yep.
And when I first saw that, I was like, okay, Alicia, I think you need to check yourself in because what is this?
Yep.
Because you see something, right? When you're a CR, right, you see something and you don't doubt it,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
you can't process what that
Yeah.
actually means.
Totally.
And I started seeing them in 2020,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
I was seeing how they were distorting and manipulating emotion,
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
sexuality, sexual energy,
Hmm.
sacred sexuality,
Creativity.
creativity,
Yeah.
uh children.
Yeah. Children. Yeah. It's a big one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you get some really powerful people playing the game who
Mm.
have the ability to bring in really powerful souls, what are you going to do, Hamish? Oh,
Yeah. Exactly. What are you going to do?
what are you going to do?
You're going to distort them. You're going to spike the fuel supply right back at the fuel tank. That's what you're going to do. No point spiking it in the engine bay. Like that's clever. That's sneaky, like a little bottle and it's hooked and it's plugged into the fuel line and that's the implants up here. That's very clever. But if you've got a big group to work with and you need to set and forget, you're just pouring sugar in the fuel tank. It's easy. It's too easy. Just distort the root, distort the sacral, and walk away. Job done. And there's so much of it.
Is like it affects everyone. Like when I started pulling these things out, they're plugins in the back of the sacral.
Yeah.
I I first saw them about 12 months ago
Mm.
and I was ripping them out of anyone who came to me for
Mm.
any reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I was, and in what I start, and I remember, and thank you to my clients because I learned through you. Like I wouldn't, I don't, don't wake up and go, what can I dismantle today? How can I trigger people? And no,
Yeah.
it's just, it is what it is. And I remember doing one particular session, and I like you, I like to see the patterns,
Mm.
and I saw it's intergenerational,
Yeah.
it's ancestral, it's curses,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes through the mother's lineage.
Yep. Yep.
And we can, I sometimes track it back 4 generations, seven, like it's individual.
Mm.
And there was a corruption on the DNA, on the lineage that came through some sort of black magic, some curse,
Mm.
some fuckery, whatever, I don't know. Right.
Yeah. Yep. An energetic distortion.
And yes, thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
And that is the hijacking of our DNA.
Yeah. Because you're going to jump into a vessel, and 3/4 of that vessel is going to be made up of nuts and bolts that are energetically distorted.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like the knock on effect of that down a couple of lines is, yeah,
Oh, like, and it snowballs, right? And so what is a
yeah,
beautiful client, female client in Australia. I won't, yeah. She came and when I saw it in her, then once you see it, you can't unsee it and you see it everywhere. And you're
yeah,
like, oh, there's the pattern. And yeah, and it's basically this pattern of distorting the feminine so they become
mm,
narcissistic,
yeah,
which is just trauma where you're a vessel and entities come through.
totally.
And each generation it gets more and more disgusting because it hasn't been cleaned up.
Yep, yep,
And then then we come in as children
mm,
of that disgusting lineage that has, all sorts of stuff on it.
yeah,
And then, so we go back to that, us as a soul coming in and we get, tracked and traced. But like this distortion and all these overlays come in while we're in the womb
mm,
because that then plugs into off Earth stuff and the secret space program
yep,
already.
already, like right from the get-go.
right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Then we are birthed into this like to in most cases, not all, but most cases, mothers who have childhood trauma of their own.
Well, if one out of three sexual abuse is one out of three, like, you know, that's a big number, and it just keeps rolling. Every generation, it just keeps rolling, doesn't get any better. So
Yep.
the odds that you're going to come in to someone who has suffered some sort of trauma or abuse is very high.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone like anyone. And you know what? I remember me on my healing journey like 20 years ago. And I was like, why am I around all these people that have all this sort of sexual trauma to some degree? Like there's varying degrees.
Yeah.
Like, why? Why? I had a great childhood. And you know what? Like I did on the surface level, really great childhood.
Yeah.
And then you keep waking up, and then you start unpacking secret space program trauma of like being trauma bonded and
Yeah. Yeah. Which is nothing, for the most part. I mean, there are many different stories out there, but that's not a slight on your parents or how they were raising you or what. Like that's mostly out of their hands or control. It just
and
lobbed.
that's the whole point is that we on this and there's like layers and parts of the process, right? So
Definitely.
we wake up to this information, we get really angry, and we get really angry with the people who are closest to us because they should have protected us and they didn't.
Yep.
And how dare you, and you didn't protect me, and I'm gonna point my fingers everywhere
Yeah.
and, have a tanty.
Mm.
At the end of the day, they're not conscious of it.
No.
They're
No.
just traumatized.
And sometimes they're not even, like, they could be complicit with it but not conscious of it.
Yeah.
But then there's plenty of cases where they're not even complicit. Like they just have no clue at all. There's nothing for them to even be conscious of. But but the flip side of that is there's also nothing they could have done probably to stop it, short of having a complete transplant from one being to another, because the being that they were was just never going to. And then if it's a generational thing and they were also taken,
Mm-hmm.
and one of their parents was also taken,
Mm-hmm.
and one of their parents was also taken, and now we swap out SSP and we swap out extraterrestrial and we put in fairy, or we, stories of stolen children and changelings, and that it's the same story that goes back so far. Find me a Greek myth or a Roman myth or a Persian myth that hasn't got a military bent in it. Like all of these stories, these star stories, they're all SSP. They're all galactic, off world or on world, but out of world military base programs with slavery and with all of, like, check a Greek myth out with all the weird sexual stuff. Like, hello.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's not just confined to them. They're just the ones that we're dealing with from a white Western upbringing in this culture. But
Mm-hmm.
Africa's no different. South America's no different. Russia's no different. They've got all the same stories. Like this is not a new thing. Just because we're putting space, Star Wars, and Star Trek tech in there, go and read the Mahabharata, right? We're talking about celestial beings with high technology playing around in the world of humans. It doesn't get any more SSP than that. So this is not a new story at all. It's been going on for a long time.
This plays into religion.
Yeah. Yeah. All of them. And
I
which means it plays into all the cultures.
All cultures.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When
Yep.
you get to this level, I don't know about you, but like when some of this stuff gets ripped out, I have to like literally sit in my house in dead silence, staring at the wall sometimes for an hour, sometimes for 5 days. Like I
Yeah.
just,
Yeah. Yep.
it's very hard to unravel all that programming and conditioning that we've had that we believed was
Mm.
serving us, and that very much in religion.
Yeah. Yep.
I think that's one of the hardest things for people.
Because the best control system is the control system that's baked into the culture, because then it's a self-policing
Mm.
organization. The culture will police itself
Mm.
to maintain the culture, because all dead things, and when I say dead, I mean like they're alive in that they're mobile and they're moving and they're evolving, but they're actually quite dead. They're like a corporation, right? The word corpse is in corporation for a very good reason. Like it's like a zombie. It's moving and it's changing, but it's dead. There's no life in there at all. And a culture's when you strip a culture back, when you strip the humanness out of a culture, it's very dead. It's a program. It's a system, and it's like another one of these autopilot systems that like the AI story of Terminator 2, like Skynet launches against the whole world to kill all the humans because the humans are trying to kill it. Like these dead things will fight for their existence,
Mm-hmm.
tooth and nail. Corporations, cultures, zombies, whatever. Like they want to exist. They want to
Bit
get
of
as
a
close.
actual visual representation you want to give that energy.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Exactly. It's an energy, and it's not alive, but we are alive, and they want to get as close to us as possible for as long as possible to feel that life, that warmth, that this here,
Mm.
and they will fight hard. And just look at McDonald's, just look at AT&T, just look at the humans and how they get the humans to behave to fight those lawsuits and to keep that business name and to keep those profits from HSBC, or they're all dead entities. They're all corporations, right? They're zombies,
Mm.
but they've got these real live people supposedly out there, armies of them fighting for them to keep them alive. And culture is no different to that. Religions, languages, they're all these extraneous things that are not necessary at all.
Mm.
But once they're an egregore, once they're up and moving, it's alive and it's up off the table with the lightning bolts and it's going. It wants to exist, and man, do they play dirty?
Don't they? And like what I've witnessed in the last week, and like it's like it feels like we're like,
Yeah,
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 is now it's not the outer circle, it's the inner circle flipping on each other.
yep,
Because really it's this conquered divide, right? And we have to unify within ourselves and unify together.
mm,
The strongest members in here need to all come together,
yeah,
and it's game over.
yeah.
Because all that thing that we're waiting for that's going to solve all our problems, our money issues, our health, our
It's here. It's not out there. You're not going to find it out there. It's here.
and I can speak to my own like blind spot for years, because I used to have a lot of dreams about the solar flash, and I used to have a lot of prophetic dreams, which is actually we're here now.
Mm,
What I saw
yep.
8 years ago, and it was January 8 years ago when I had that dream.
Mm,
So it's on our doorstep, and I remember probably for a good, like I will totally claim this one. It's so embarrassing, but it's true. Probably for at least 6, maybe 7 of those 8 years. If anyone said to me, "You are the solar flash that resides within you," it was the biggest trigger. I was like,
yep. Yep.
yep, yep. So when we have such a really visceral response,
Mm,
like a really big trigger.
Yeah. Yeah. When you get bent out of shape, when you get the heat comes up and you feel like pointing fingers and shaking fists, that's when you just got to stop and go, well, this could all be the case. And if that's true, then I can just take 3 seconds before I rain hellfire down upon them. It's all right. 3 seconds is what if it's me? What if they're correct?
Yep.
Like the question is worth 3 seconds, I think. Like,
Yes.
because if you're gonna give them both barrels, it's coming anyway. So you just take the pause and go, there's a chance they could be correct here. What would it, and the question I always ask myself, because I'm part of my upbringing, which I'm very blessed about, getting brought up with both of my parents at home. We were on a big property, and so you know, Dad was out a lot working, but he also worked from home because we were farmers. So we were around and we could go out with him, and it wasn't like he was getting in a car and driving 2 hours to inner city wherever, and then or catching the train or whatever. We were there, and my grandparents were also on property, and part of the education of being brought up, particularly from my grandparents, but my parents were very good at it as well, was devil's advocate, was being able to take the other position, the contrarian position, just to see if there's anything in it. And that's really good for checking your blind spots. I won't talk about the 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 term when we imagine that we're living on a flat and level plane rather than a ball, because the video will get tagged. But it's that idea of that, right? And well, that's total nonsense. And then just try taking the contrarian position and going, well, hang on a minute. How about I imagine I'm like one of those idiots that thinks this is what's going on rather than a ball? How would I argue my case? It's like being in debating at school, right? What I'm not going to lie about it. What data points am I going to use to argue my case? Where am I going to find clear data? Where am I going to find clear data to prove that this one's real rather than a flat one? Because I need to know what they're going to come at me. What's the ammunition like? And jump into that argument for 5 minutes or 5 years, and what you'll find is there's about as much data for both cases
I
and a
was
couple of
about to
problems.
say, you're literally describing me and my dad for 5 years. I
Yeah,
sat on one side of the fence, he sat on the other,
yeah,
and we literally went hammer and tong at each other for 5 years
yeah,
until I said to him, Dad, actually, at the end of the day, it's irrelevant, and we're actually fighting over something that doesn't really matter
yeah.
because maybe you're right and I'm right.
Totally. How could we both be right? Could we both be wrong and it's something else entirely?
Yeah, right.
Like, and so being able to just play devil's advocate and go, well, not only am I going to look at the other side of this argument or this other point of view, but I'm actually going to live it.
Mm.
I'm going to get into those shoes and I'm going to be that person. I'm going to take off my Joe Biden hat and put on my Trump hat. Be all for Trump. I didn't like Obama. I never liked him. Like, flip it. Whatever your thing is, like, flip it and then go, well, you know what? They've got as many points to argue for their case as I have for mine. So either we're both correct, which would be an interesting place to be, or we're both wrong and we've both been played. And it's the third thing or the fourth thing.
It is when you can see that you're being played
Hmm.
and the closest ones to you are also being played.
Yeah.
What do you, like at that point? What do you do?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Because
well,
I'm
yeah.
seeing this a lot in close friendships, like original pairing, divine camp, or whatever name
Hmm.
title.
Yep.
Um, best friends, siblings, parents. Like it's the whoever in your reality
Hmm.
is the closest to you
Yep.
that is going to pull you undone because you got a blind spot and you got trauma.
Yep.
they're going to use that person.
They're going to use that, and it's a bit like the 2020 um, bloodstream campaign. It's it's a very effective weapon, but it's also the undoing of the whole situation if you play it the correct way. Because someone who's going to get right up close to you, under your guard, under your elbow, they're going to get right in the sweet spot there, and then they're going to hit that blind spot, and it's going to flare up, and that can be enough to bring you undone totally, right? It's just
100% undone.
you will just unravel. And the double-edged sword of that is they just showed you your blind spot. You literally couldn't see it, and now you know it's there.
It's been exposed.
It's now been exposed. So they actually, like, it's a card game, and they had to play a card. They had to play draw 10, right? You had to pick up 10, but they can't play that card anymore. It's been done. So while they're hitting you in your blind spot, they're also showing you where your blind spot is. So if you can take it on the chin and you lose your cool or not, like that's where this is where we are, right? The emotional body has a fair bit of sway, and so does the mental body, and so we do lose our cool a bit, a lot sometimes, and so however that plays out, it doesn't matter as long as you don't get amnesia from that moment and pretend it never happened again. If you can just hold yourself there and go, "Ooh, I made a bit of a dick of myself," or "Well, I can't believe they did that to me." Like, however you want to do that, don't forget the blind spot they exposed, because now you can work on it. So it's almost like, thank you.
Yeah, it's the
Thank you for
greatest
showing
gift.
me. Thank you for showing me that, because you can never get me like that again. Never, ever. And this is where I had the short 15-minute thing that I put out about the boxing thing about grabbing by the belt buckle. Like, get in close when this stuff's going on, when someone's hitting, and you can see the blind spot hit coming, and everyone's getting triggered. Don't run away. Don't change the subject. Get as neutral as you can and grab them by the belt buckle and get in close and stay with it. It's like being on one of those bulls and you've got to hang on for 8 seconds. Like, you've made 4 seconds. Don't bail out now. Like, just hang on, because the closer you can get in there and the more neutral you can stay, and maybe you don't stay neutral, maybe you blow up. But that's kind of beside the point. If you can get in there and stay with it, everything's going to come out. Everything. And I know you had an experience like this very recently where it all comes out. And you're like, just keep going. Keep going. Don't stop now. Say it all. Mean it. Say everything you're thinking. Get it all out on the table. No more cards up the sleeves. Now we know what we're dealing with. Now I can see which part's me and which part's you, because it takes two to tango. And you can't make the other person clean up their stuff, but you get the opportunity to clean up yours.
Yeah. And that's all that matters at the end.
That's all that matters. Yep.
And if everyone was doing that, let's say hypothetically, Hamish, we put this video out.
Yep.
It's the 4th of January, 2024. Oh, okay. We hypothetically put this video out. Those who see it or who are meant to see it, whatever. Let's say on this day, everyone does that cleanup within them.
Yeah, just one thing.
Just one thing. No, we don't have to like unpack, like it's just whatever is
the first one. The first one that bobs up. Yeah.
Or that, like that flashing light.
Yep.
That siren going off in your head. It's trying to tell you to do something. And you're fighting it because whatever. Or
because you think you're protecting a position. I'll just throw this into your little thing. You think you're protecting a position, and you can't give that ground away, because if you do, you can't protect the position anymore, but you're not protecting anything. The parasitic being or trauma or entity in you is using you to protect their position. It's like a worm in your gut telling you to eat chicken because it can't eat bread. It can only eat chicken. And so, man, I'm hungry for chicken. I don't know why. I had chicken yesterday. You'd think I'd be bored of it by now. Like, it's not you. These things are in you, pretending to be you. Anyway, keep going.
Oh, no, that was. I was like, Hamish, have you been in my house? 3 days? Because all I've been eating is chicken. Is this an
Oh
issue?
dear. Yeah, that happens. It happens with me. I come up with random things and they turn out to not be random. Sorry about that.
That's okay. We'll talk about that off camera.
Yeah.
I need a session, Hamish. By the way, if you haven't had a session or several with Hamish, that.
Yeah.
Because behind even the people who've been doing energy work or practitioners of any modality, I think the best ones are the ones that have a team of healers behind them to support
Yeah.
them. And I
It's
wouldn't
necessary.
be doing what I do if I didn't have a whole team that, and Hamish is part of that team. So thank you, Hamish.
You're welcome.
Because I don't like the fact that I have blind spots.
No. And so the best way to deal with that is to deal with them. Yeah.
No matter, yeah.
But I interrupted you. I'm going to bring you back.
Yeah, please.
Everyone's going to work on one thing.
Yeah, okay. So if everyone worked on that one thing, it was bringing their into their attention right now, and we all did that together, what could possibly happen?
Something would probably get unleashed, I would say. Yeah.
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 Like, and is that like the splitting of the realities? Like we're going to just play hypotheticals here. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we're going to throw around some possibilities.
Yeah. Well, yes, that would certainly speed up this splitting that's going on. The more the more people did the actual work on themselves, because there's a difference. But and believe me, I know the difference between thinking you're working on yourself and actually working on yourself. It's like we've all been caught with that. So
Oh,
let's not pretend that anyone's above. I've done all the work, and you haven't even done the preliminary. You haven't even read the preface yet, let alone got into the first chapter. You've done nothing. We've all been there. It would bring about changes and glitches and manifestations that would be very benevolent and very beneficial very quickly. Like, and because you have people do this work on you, and you do this work on other people. You can do something with a person. You could do 5 or 6 different operations on a person, and yeah, it's better, but it's not. It's incremental.
mm,
But you can do that one thing,
mm.
that keystone, that linchpin. You get that one thing, and their whole life transforms. Like, in ways that if we tried to tell anyone about it, they just look at us like, well, I mean, we know you're trying to sell your services, but come on, that's a
Yeah.
bit far out there. Like, and it's mind blowing when it happens. When you hit that one, and they all fall down, and this person's life just. And so imagine that on scale, on mass.
And can we just like tie that into the secret space program? Because let's face it, everyone's being used and played, and their consciousness is in alters, clones, other versions of fractal reality, like whatever.
Yep.
And really, that's what I came to the conclusion of about a year ago, was that I will never get everything I have been working so hard for until all my consciousness is back in my physical body.
Yep. 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 Until you're prime, until you're operating as the prime.
Yes.
Pulled it all back in.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're separated, even just the slightest bit, there's a deviation. You're doing this, but 2% of you's out there doing that, and maybe another 1.5% over there doing that, and that's kind of that's been necessary, or it's felt like
Yeah.
it's been necessary, or we were tricked into thinking that was necessary.
It was I personally believe it was the mission
Yeah.
that many of us have come in and we knew it was going to be hard and dirty and all that because let's face it, we are. I remember, sorry, side note, I remember once I had this phone call with someone because I thought we were on the precipice in like March of 2020, because it's always happening now and you get the memo.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
remember going, oh my God, we're about to get like the full everything. We're going to get like the EBS, we're going to get, all that.
yeah.
And I just remember going, I've got to, there's a friend I have to tell. And I picked up the phone and I called this friend and I said, you need to pay attention to me. What I'm going to tell you, you're going to think I'm crazy. But the world is about to find out that the entire world is about to find out that the whole world is run by a satanic pedophile ring.
Mm.
And that's pretty confronting.
It's pretty confronting. Yep.
And not many people are going to cope with that
No,
level of truth.
no.
And the most important thing that you need to do is stay in love and not in fear
Mm.
in
Yeah,
that moment.
yeah. Because frequency and projected energetics are very important. Very, very important. Yeah.
And, there's a potential that there's going to be blackouts. We may not have power, electricity for whatever reason. And I was like, in that moment, what do you do if you can't pick up the phone? And
Yeah.
even Telegram's not working. Do you know what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do, do we forget that we all have telepathy and we can read each other's thoughts and
Yeah.
we can just project a thought
Mm.
to each
Yeah.
other?
Exactly. Exactly.
So anyway, I totally went on a tangent. We
But that's so good. I mean, you were maybe 4 years early, or maybe more. We'll find out. But if we were on the precipice then, we're treading on air now. We're like way over the edge at this point. But
really over that.
having said that, this is the 4th of January and the last couple of days, some stuff that's been hanging around for the last 4 years is finally getting made public, properly public, not just
Yeah, 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 yeah.
speculatively public. And so, I mean, that's what we're waiting for in a way, is those of us who know,
Mm.
and we can't be talked out of it particularly. But there are people who don't know and don't want to know, and it's going to have to be right in their face. And we're probably in the last 2 or 3 days, we've seen the drip feed of that start, and it doesn't look like it's going to stop.
Not gonna stop.
So you are going to have to come to terms with this satanic, for want of a better word, pedophile cult that is running everything, that has been put in positions of power by beings who can operate in densities and dimensions and realities that we have been kind of locked out of through our own programming.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not higher than us or more expanded than us or better than us or any of that. They just have access to more of their abilities than we do. We have the same abilities, especially when we're operating at the levels they're operating at. We have more abilities than them when it's toe to toe, but we've been blocked off from most of them. But these bodies operate like that and more.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to get very interesting when that does start to play out, which it already is and has been for a while, but
Yeah.
it's
It's
it's broken cover now, and there's no way you can reel that back in once it breaks cover. And this is what I've been being told for the last decade, like myself, my own personal message, probably since about 2008 actually,
mm,
has been, you just need to get yourself as clean as possible. And that doesn't mean you've done enough. That doesn't mean, yep, now you can stop. Now you can rest. It means you will never get yourself clean ever in here.
mm-mm,
Still
mm-mm.
breathing air, you're still drinking water, you're still eating food. You're not going to be
You saying that, so my body's reacting.
yeah, like you're not going to get clean, but you need to get as clean as you can get, which means you need to deal with your blind spots as much as possible, because you can only remember who you are to the level that you believe that you are.
Mm.
And if you've got all these autonomous energies and entities locked up behind traumas in your body telling you that you're something that you're not, then yeah, that needs working on. Like that's the invitation, I think, is to just keep working on that.
My body fully reacted. It
I
was like
saw
I
it.
was transmuting something, and it was like, oh
Saw it. You're like, well, let's get that bit out right now, shall we?
my. And look, sometimes when transmuting energy is not like
Mm.
it's not like I said.
Oh no, no, no. It's not. It's not usually Byron Bay style. It's not usually pretty. It's usually not pretty at all, actually.
No, the body has to release,
Yeah.
and yeah, not pretty ways.
No.
And that's why I think what I wrote in that post was when we had that X5
Mm.
flare,
Yep.
that was like it elevated, so much light came in, or we had access to that much light,
Yeah.
that everything that isn't of the vibration of what keeps coming in just keeps
Yeah. Getting
releasing
and
through
getting
us.
louder and louder. And the trick with the bodies, not just the physical, we shouldn't just point the finger at the physical body, like the physical body, the emotional body, and the mental body, particularly those three, are really, really, really good at holding on to things. Because if your physical body wasn't holding on to your heart and your lungs, they'd probably drop out the bottom. Let's be honest. Like your body, the body is programmed to do this, like to hold on, not to let go. Like if you hit it with something hot, like the reaction is grab. So there's this stuff that's in you that it's like it's in you because it got put in there. Either you put it in, you were tricked to put it in, or someone else put it in through a trauma or through a word or through a
And
whatever.
even through the astral state, because I know, shout out to Lockie.
Mm.
He taught me for many years that if he's having a dream and someone offers him food
Oh yeah.
ingest
Oh
or
yeah.
anything to ingest or having sexual exchange, like
Yeah. Yep.
it's a trick. It's a
It's a
trap.
total trick, and it's an implant.
It's an
and
implant.
and then suddenly it's in you because you were tricked into putting it energetically in you, and then the body goes, oh, I guess this is meant to be here. Grab. And it's like, what is that energy in my shoulder? That's why would my body, oh, and you try and get it out and the body's holding on to it. It's like, no, you need to remember to tell the body, no, this isn't us.
Mm.
This is not us. Let it go.
Mm.
This stuff needs to go. And so it's like anything that's not like you're talking about, that light coming in, that frequency, that higher frequency coming in, or maybe not even higher, could be lower, but the different density of the
Mm.
frequency,
Yeah.
whatever that is not compatible with this crap that
Yes.
we're getting dealt all the time, any of it,
Mm.
then your body's trying to purge it like it's a toxin, but it's also holding on to it because it thinks it's necessary. And your body is like, it's loyal. It'll hang on.
Oh yeah.
Even when you want to let go of it, it'll hang on because it will do what it's told to do. So you really need to get in there and say, we need to release this. And saying we need to release everything that's not us, I mean, it's not going to work that way. Body's kind of like a 4-year-old. It's not going to play that way, but it's getting that reaction come up and feeling that energy and going, oh, that's ugly and that's not me. And we need to get rid of that. And then talking to the bodies and saying,
Mm.
we're going to release this now
Mm.
because this is not good and this is not us.
Mm.
And it's like we've got a team, like even just here, us is a team. And so talk to the team because they're not mind readers. They don't know what's going on. And you'll be amazed how helpful it can be to do that.
Yeah. And it's so important for all of us to get to exactly where we know we're going, and it's our destiny anyway. Like it's already
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Just how long are we going to draw it out for?
Yeah. That's literally where we are at the moment. It's like a bad trip to the dentist. It's the long drawn process, right? But but a lot of that is like where we've been tricked. Like we started this conversation off with, like the people who are doing stuff at the galactic level, whether it's SSP or an, what they perceive as a non-military galactic operation, or they're working with gods and demigods or whatever. But there's this thing where you think that you're doing what's necessary and what needs to be done, and you've been read into the script and you know what you're playing, your role, and this is exactly what you're doing, and it turns out it's a screen memory and you're the bad guy, and you think that you're intercepting a slaver ship, and it could be on the ocean or it could be in outer space, doesn't matter here. You're having a dream and you're intercepting a slaver shipment and you're rescuing the children and you're taking them back and you're giving them to the authorities to get it all worked out. And the actual reality is that's a transport ship going from one place to another, and you go there and you take out all the adults who aren't the bad guys, but you think they are, and then you take all the children and you deliver them to the slavers. And that's not a hypothetical situation. Like people that's happened to people, and then they've worked through the screen memory and realized, oh shit, I was the bad guy. And full kudos to them for feeling that the situation that they were telling themselves was the truth and they were the good guys for many years. They felt something was off and they just kept poking and prodding until they got brave enough to go right in and go, would you look at that? I was the patsy.
Yep.
I was the bad guy.
Yeah.
And it's like being an alcoholic. If you don't admit you're holding a bottle of rum in your hand, you're never going to be able to deal with your alcohol problem.
Mm.
Like you have to make sure that it's a bottle of water in your hand and not a bottle of rum, because I think it's water, and away we go. But do you know it's water? Like, are you sure? Are you 100% sure that you were out there with the good guys doing the good thing? What sort of questions could you ask yourself to find out whether that's actually true or not? Because that's a big blind spot. And it's those sort of energies of not accepting what's happened, not accepting where you've been a part of something that might be a bit questionable.
I remember when I first started getting support and sessions from Rebecca Rose. And she did what she magnificently does. And she said to me, Alisha, you're a double agent. And I went, what do you mean? She goes, you think you're just on Team Light? And I was mortified.
Yeah.
And then I kind of realized that when you take out the secrets, like we all have dark and light within us, and
plays out at every level.
It plays out at every level.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do is unify that.
Yeah.
Into neutrality.
But or just beneficial, like beneficial for yourself and everyone else around you. Because if you're, and I use that a lot working with people, like looking for outcomes, and I say, look, if your operating tenets are, I'm not going to do anything that hurts anyone around me in any way, and not like they imagine they're hurt, but I know that that's going to hurt them in some way. If you really question and double check and just flat out say you're not going to do anything that would hurt anyone else around you, and you're not going to do anything that would lead to that, like how are you going to get in trouble? You can't get in trouble if you're going to question at that level. Like, is what I'm about to do, is that going to be hurtful to anyone, including me, at any level at all? And then is what I'm going to do beneficial to me and to anyone else around me? And if you can get it, if it can pass the sniff test on both of those things, then it's going to be okay. If it doesn't pass the test, then you need to look at it again and again and again and again until it passes the test, or you just don't do it one way or the other. But yeah, that's definitely where it needs to be. Because what would you do? Like how what would you get involved with and how would you operate if think about and this is me thinking my life, think about the things that I wouldn't have done in my life that I had to apologize for, that I had to rescue myself from, that I had to heal massive trauma around,
Mm,
that I could have dodged all of that if I had have operated on, is it going to hurt someone else and is it beneficial to me and anyone else around me?
mm.
Because most of the things that got me in trouble, I wouldn't have got past those first two ever.
Yeah, wow. Deep breath.
Yeah, yeah, it is because you can see where you've been potentially complicit in stuff around you because you just played a bit fast and loose.
Yep.
And then, well, it probably might hurt them a bit, but it's for the best.
Yeah.
And and oh look, it might not be the best thing for me, but it's really going to help those other people. So let's just both those things disastrous,
Hmm.
absolutely disastrous.
And we're coming down to the wire now. And I think what I've seen is like, I remember I had this download about the truth serum.
Mm-hmm.
Humanity was going to get a dose of the truth serum.
Yep.
Well, in my personal life, I definitely got the truth serum maybe a week and a half ago. And I just can't even stop, even if I wanted to. Like
Yep.
the truth that I've never expressed, that I like all the stuff that I've held
Mm.
is like the whole thing about letting go, right? We have to be as
Have
clean
to.
as possible, and whatever we're holding,
Yeah.
if that's a grudge with an ex partner from 20 years ago, or like however that all
Yeah.
that has to go
Yeah.
and
Yep.
come back to unconditional love for
Mm.
ourselves, not for them.
No, no, for ourselves.
Mm.
Absolutely. And when you see all of that having to come up and out, you really start to think twice about even having those sort of thoughts, let alone being involved in those sort of actions. Because it's like, look, I'd love to drink that whole bottle of scotch, but I know what the after effects are going to be, and it's just not worth. What would Alan Watts say? Not worth the candle. Like it's not worth. It's not
Mm.
going to do it.
Mm.
Like so. So having those thoughts and those feelings and those internal reactions, if you know that all actually has to come back up to be seen, are you even going to involve yourself in that game? Because it's just nah, it's too much. It's too much pain. It's too much, and and it's just us getting played.
Yeah,
Back
exactly.
to what we were saying again. We're
I was
just getting
getting
played. We're
played.
getting played by parasites. We're getting played by parasites in our stomach. We're
Yep.
getting played by parasites in our head.
Oh, hang on.
We're getting played by parasites on a galactic level. We're getting played by parasites at a god level. Like they're just playing
Yep.
constantly.
Yep. And you totally glitched out the entire time. It was like,
Yeah, they don't like it when they get called out.
oh, oh, I think we've got stable internet though. We were like, so how do we ultimately, from my perspective, it's the most important thing that we can do is come back to unconditional love for ourselves
Yeah,
and follow our heart's truest desires in whatever action that that could be, and that's going to look different for everyone.
it
Like
is.
for me personally, it was like step back, pour love into myself that I want to give to everyone else, and just bring it all back into me and my beautiful babies, who you know my fur babies. And if you hear the noise in the background, yes, Luna's like doing her thing. About to do it again, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
And that self-love of honoring what is okay and what is not okay, what I want and what
yeah,
I you know and having a salt bath and cooking food
yeah,
and talking to you and making this video, like we
yeah,
it's like
yeah. Look after yourself.
Yeah.
But my version, my best real world metaphor for unconditional love is grandmother energy. There's a grandmother is going to, you do the wrong thing, she's still going to give you a hug. She's still going to look after you. She'll cook you your favorite dinner, and then she'll kick you up the ass. And then she'll go to the door with a shotgun and tell the bloke who's turned up to rack off and never come back with the barrels cocked. Like, you do not fuck with grandmother energy at all, because it is unconditional. There are no conditions to that love. That love will do whatever needs to be done to get you over the line to where you need to be. And that involves some very, very painful things being brought to the surface. And so, unconditional love from that point of view is being able to go to those dark places inside ourselves and see what we may have been witness to and what we may have been party to and all of the above, and forgiving ourselves for it, holding ourselves through it, and just releasing it, because we were played. We were just played. And if we can let that go, that just lightens the load. Just kick it out the airlock. You just don't need to be carrying that crap anymore.
And I want to thank Omar Coles. Like the letting go. Every time I hear someone say just let it go, I hear his voice in my head.
Yep.
I might even put his website in the description box below. Because you and I both recognized Omar as a team member, didn't we?
Totally.
Voice recognition.
Or even just
wow.
I looked over and I saw him. I'm like, yeah. But then when he spoke to me, I was like, oh, here we go.
And I can see the role that he's played in my life, because I thought I'd let everything I'd let everything go, Hamish. Like, I was good.
Yeah.
I was good.
There's that blind spot.
Oh, like 10,000 blind spots, because every time I spoke to Omar, his first word was, Alisha, what are you holding on to? I'm like, me? I'm not holding on to anything.
Who, me?
Me?
Oh.
And then within like 2 seconds of the conversation, I'd be in tears. I don't know what's coming up right now, but it's like it's pouring out of me.
Yep.
And I say this because I'm sure that so many people are going through that. And I don't want to make it lighthearted, but the emotional outpouring, the physical outpouring, the mental unraveling of the programming,
yeah,
like, it's intense right now.
It's super intense, and we're at the point where you don't actually have to do anything. It's going to unravel on you. So the only thing that I could suggest is, the more that you can consciously do, the further out in front of the game you're going to get, because otherwise it's just going to steamroll right over the top of you and then just drag you along with it as it rolls along, and it's not pretty. Like, it's much better to jump off the cliff than be pushed. Like, you get to choose the time and the place. If you choose to go and look for something to unpack, just go, I wonder if I've got a blind spot. And these are the questions that I love asking myself. It's like, if I had a blind spot, hypothetically, where would the energy of that blind spot be manifesting in my body? Oh yeah, left thigh. Bingo. Like I literally just got that answer. So I've been unpacking this crap for how long? And every day I'm still
Every day.
myself, and I've still got something that needs dealing with right now in my left thigh. So it's like, just pose the hypothetical question to yourself. If I was to have a blind spot, where would the most beneficial blind spot for me to move in this moment be located? Bang, you'll get a location, and then just zero in on it, whatever that takes for you, color, shape, name, address, just like bring it in, and then you've got it. You know exactly where it is, what it looks like. It's in your house. You remove it and you put it in the portal, gone ski, like out of here. Do not leave it around for the dog to trip over. or for someone else to pick up, like get it out of here.
Yeah.
And it's literally that easy. It doesn't have to be a drama or a performance. You could do
Yep.
10 of them in a row.
Yep.
Your body, your body, yeah, your body might throw you under the bus every now and then. Your higher self won't throw you under the bus though. Like you will never be given a task that's too hard for you to do. Never. So just pose the question, I wonder if I've got a blind spot. If I was to have one, where?
Yep.
Where would it be?
Yep.
And you'll get an answer because we
Always.
all do.
The body, yeah, the body is the barometer of the soul.
Totally. It's all in here. Like this is the metaphor for everything. So treat it like a metaphor rather than a body and work on it.
So to wrap up completely, do we negotiate with terrorists?
We do not negotiate with terrorists. We do not.
When you taught me that, that was a game changer for me, Hamish. So thank you.
Yep. And recognize that if something is in your body and it's holding a part of your body, your emotions, your consciousness, an aspect of you hostage, it is a fucking terrorist. Now, and look, the child soldiers in Africa or the Middle East or Eastern Europe or Sydney or Los Angeles, they're everywhere, right? The child soldiers that become terrorists, low level or high level, they have got terrible stories. They were traumatized. They were hurt. They do not want to be there doing what they're doing. That still does not mean you negotiate with them because they're terrorists. That's their training. So you can feel sorry for them and you can treat them really, really nicely and you can send them home. You can heal them before you send them home. All of that. You don't have to be brutal here, but do not negotiate with them because it never ends well. Your house, your rules, they go. Full stop.
The emotional blackmail
Yep.
in relationships,
Yeah.
close relationships of the
Yep.
terrorist in our home,
Yeah.
whether that be a dog, a spouse, a child,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
whatever form that wants to come in.
And it's just traumatized entities playing out their story that they're looping in through another body or through your body.
Yep.
And if you try and negotiate with that, you will lose.
Always.
Every time.
Every time.
Yep. So don't.
Because you're
Don't
giving your power away.
Yeah.
Rather than cleaning it up from inside.
Clean it up. Just clean it up.
That's the solution.
Yeah. And you can't work on anyone else. So just keep cleaning yourself.
Yeah. That's all we can do. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
I will put in the description box below how you can connect with Hamish. I'm actually going to put how you can connect with Omar.
Yeah.
Because that just feels right. I don't know why.
Yeah. No, he's a player for
He's
sure.
a player.
Yeah.
Omar Coles is part of Energia. So those who have been and Hamish is a big part of Energia. So we're kind of bringing information out bit by bit. So where I just glitched out because I was going somewhere with that. And all right, in the description box below. So how you can connect with Hamish, Omar, obviously my website. I'm still kind of not quite fully back into individual sessions. I will take requests. So if there's your soul is screaming, going, I need to see Alisha, I will sit with it. However, I do have elevation training and Elevate 2 training, which is literally the manual of doing it.
Yeah. And I can say that I've looked at lots of manuals from lots of different modalities going back over centuries. And what Alicia's got in there is, with the two combined, is priceless information. Like you just couldn't put it. It's very succinct and it's very comprehensive. Yeah, it's all in one spot, so it's well worth a look.
Thank you, Hamish. Look, I'll be honest, even my human was surprised at the content that came through. was like, that's genius.
Yeah, it is. A lot of it is genius. Yeah, literally.
So yeah, that will be, and yeah, there'll just be different, energy or whatever in the description box. But before we close off,
Mm.
one last final thing.
Yeah.
While we've been talking, I have a pop-up on my screen. So,
Oh, yeah.
everything sends us a message, right? Everything's encoded, everything. Can I read to you what popped up? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Malware bites. So it's like a virus
Mm.
software, one that cleans the computer. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And it's got the caution symbol,
Yep.
and it says heads up exclamation mark. Your 14-day trial is over.
We're live now.
We're live now.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
that's the energy of January. We are live, well and truly.
so we if we can do all the things for ourselves, like what is waiting for, just yeah, close off by what's waiting for us on the other side of um our own internal cleanup.
Yeah.
What do we get to access if we do do the thing?
Yeah. Well, you just get more. You just get more access to everything. Like it gets clearer. It gets uh, the content expands. You don't feel like you're struggling. That's the main thing, I think. The more of this stuff you clean out, the less you're going to feel like you're struggling. You're
Mm.
going to have hard days. You're going to have days where you struggle. There's no doubt about that. The last few have felt quite like that, actually.
Yeah.
Um, have they ever? But it's not going to be as hard. It's just going to be easier because there's less noise. There's more signal and less noise going on,
Yeah.
and you're not constantly tripping yourself over. Like that self sabotage is a bit like
Oh,
human nature for me. Like there is nothing human about human nature, and there is nothing about yourself that is ever going to sabotage you. Nothing. So self sabotage is actually something in you running these loop programs to get you to do things unconsciously that trip you over. But that's not yourself any more than human nature is human and not demonic, or whatever word we give that to. Like, we'll just give it a nice, easy word like demonic. Humans don't behave that way.
no.
And say, oh, well, what could you expect human nature? I just call bullshit every time to that.
Yeah.
Humans don't act like that. Demons in human bodies act like that.
Mm-hmm.
And weird parasites and things act like that. Humans don't. So, like, when we say remember who you are and come back to yourself, like, just remember your humanness, and don't get sold a story about what yourself is like or
Mm.
what your human is like, because they're nothing like what those descriptions want to tell you they are.
Yeah.
And that's just your humanness,
Mm.
let
Yeah.
alone the rest of the package.
Yeah.
So you will get, the more you clear out of yourself,
Mm.
blind spots and anything else that comes up,
Mm.
the clearer you're going to get on who you are and who you aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really helpful,
Yeah, it really is.
because we can't get sold a lie if we know who we are.
Yeah. And our heart is the gateway.
To everything.
Everything. Love,
Yep.
abundance, joy, harmony, like whatever is in
Yep.
your desire bank of
Yep.
what you want to experience in your true nature of reality. Everything is accessed through that.
Yep. Yep. It's literally the key. Like the energy builds from below, like that life force energy comes from those lower centers, but it's unformed.
Yeah.
And the heart literally forms the energy into the key that unlocks everything.
Yeah.
So you just have to be able to get in full access to that. But you don't get full access to that when you've got all this other crap going on. Like, they're fail safes in place. So we've got to get rid of the hitchhikers.
Yes, all the hitchhikers. Eviction notice.
Yeah, that's the one.
thank you so much, Hamish. Like, this has just been an incredibly profound and important conversation for me, and I'm sure that many others will get even just one gem out of it. That if one person gets one gem out of it,
Job done. Yeah,
yeah.
that's all that matters. Yeah, yeah.
So
Thank you, thank you so much for the opportunity to let it come through.
yeah, and just thank you everyone if you've journeyed with us through all this. Like it's been a
Yeah,
lot. So if you're still here, like wow, just thank
yeah,
you for being here and doing the work and listening and being
mm,
present and showing up for
yeah.
what's to come because the best is yet to come.
Oh yeah. Say that again.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, mwah, much love, everyone. And no doubt Hamish and I will be back for round two. Keep an eye out for that. Adios.